Have you ever felt like life can be incredibly unfair? That some people struggle every day just to survive, while others squander wealth without worrying about tomorrow? What if I told you that on an ordinary day, a family in debt, desperate, about to lose everything, had their life completely transformed for an unexpected gesture from one of hip-hop's biggest legends? Sounds like a movie script, doesn't it? But this story really happened, and the reason behind this act will leave your jaw dropped. Snoop Dogg, one of the most iconic rappers in the world, known for his extravagant lifestyle and irreverent attitude, made a decision that no one could have predicted. He did something that proves that karma can work in the most surprising ways. And what started as a simple act of generosity turned out to be one of the most heartwarming comebacks you've ever heard. But why did he choose this family? What made Snoop Dogg open his heart and wallet to pay all the bills for complete strangers? Was it a simple act of kindness, or was there something much deeper behind this attitude? What you discover in the next few minutes may change the way you view poetic justice, because this story is not just about money, but about destiny, overcoming, and the incredible way life can turn around. And before we continue, I ask you a question. Do you believe that good really comes back? That everything we do, good or bad, ends up being returned to us in some way? So get ready, because this story will prove that sometimes a twist happens when we least expect it. And when it arrives, it can transform lives forever. Life often seems like a game of cards, where some people face relentless challenges, while others seem to have luck always on their side. And that's exactly what this family felt. They were on the brink of financial collapse, suffocated by mounting debt, while the world around them seemed indifferent to their pain. The bills were piling up, the rent was late, the power outage notice had already been served, and the nearly empty refrigerator was a cruel reminder that, with each passing day, the situation became more desperate. They were ordinary, struggling people trying to survive in a system that rarely forgives those at a disadvantage. The father, a tireless worker, did everything he could to keep the family afloat, picking up extra shifts whenever he could, but the salary barely covered the basics. The mother, with a heavy heart, tried to balance the accounts while taking care of her children, hiding her despair so as not to scare them. They cling to hope, but even hope begins to crumble when reality brutally asserts itself. And the worst, they were not alone. This story could be that of millions of families who fight every day against social injustice, against a destiny that seems implacable. But what no one imagined was that, in the midst of this devastating scenario, an unbelievable turnaround was about to happen. The phone rang. At first, it seemed like just another connection among many others that were collecting unpayable debts. But this time, it was different. The voice on the other end of the line was not that of a ruthless collector, but someone with a message that would change their lives forever. Something extraordinary was about to happen, something that would defy all odds, something that seemed straight out of a movie. Snoop Dogg, one of the biggest names in world music, had learned about this family's story, and what he did after that, well, you won't believe the impact of this attitude. Now I want to hear from you. What would you do if you were in this family's shoes? Have you ever been through a difficult time where you felt like the world was falling apart, and then suddenly something unexpected happened? Tell me here in the comments, because I read each one of them, and I want to know your opinion. Stories like this make us reflect on the importance of empathy, justice, and the impact that a simple act can have on someone's life. And if there's one thing this story teaches, it's that the world goes around often. Those we least expect can be responsible for changing everything. And that's exactly why I invite you to continue following this unbelievable turnaround. What Snoop Dogg did after learning about this family was something no one could have predicted, and their reaction was simply indescribable. So leave your like, because it helps the channel a lot and shows that you want more stories like this. If you're not yet registered, take the opportunity to subscribe and activate the bell so you don't miss any of the next videos, and I guarantee you that this story still has much more to reveal. Now get ready. because what comes next will surprise you. Life has mysterious ways of connecting people. As this family struggled to survive, not knowing how they would pay next month's bills, on the other side of town, a simple conversation would change everything. Snoop Dogg, known worldwide not only for his musical talent, but also for his generous actions, would learn of this story in an unexpected way. But before revealing how it happened, it's important to understand one thing. This wasn't the first time Snoop used his influence to help someone. The rapper, despite his fame, has always been a guy with a huge heart. He has helped countless people in silence, without seeking recognition, without wanting applause. Whether paying for strangers' purchases at the supermarket, covering medical expenses for fans in need, or financing community projects for young people from the outskirts, he has always believed that those who have a lot should help those who have little. But this story in particular moved him deeply, and the reason for this will surprise you. The news began circulating on social media after a neighbor, outraged by the family's situation, made an emotional post about the despair they were facing. The caption of the post was something that touched the heart. Imagine working your whole life, doing everything right, and still seeing your family go hungry. How long will life be unfair to those who need it most? The post quickly went viral. Hundreds of people began commenting, sharing their own stories of struggle, anger, and financial hardship. Some offered symbolic help, others just words of support, but nothing seemed enough to change that reality. And then, like a ripple effect, the post reached someone who knew Snoop Dogg. A close friend of the rapper saw the report while scrolling through his feed and knew immediately that this was a story that needed to be told to him. Knowing the artist's generous heart, he decided to send the post directly to Snoop, accompanied by a simple message. This looks like something you might want to see. What happened next was something no one could have predicted. Snoop Dogg not only saw the post, he was deeply touched by the story. He stopped everything he was doing and started researching more about that family. Who were they? How did they get to that point? What could be done to help them? It was as if, for some greater reason, he felt he had to act. And here comes the most unbelievable part. As he read the details of the situation, something awakened within him, something that went far beyond compassion, something personal. This story somehow reminded him of something from his own past, something he never forgot. It was at that moment that he made a decision. This family would no longer suffer. Not only would he help, but he would do something so great that it would change their lives forever. Now, tell me one thing. Do you believe in the power of destiny? Do you think some stories come to us for a greater reason? Comment below. I believe in destiny if you feel that nothing happens by chance. And if you've ever experienced something similar, where a small action changed everything, tell me. I read every comment, and I really want to know your opinion. And if you thought this story was already exciting, wait until you see what Snoop Dogg did next. What happened next was simply unbelievable. Snoop Dogg didn't think twice. As soon as he finished reading that family story, something inside him lit up. It wasn't just empathy, it wasn't just a desire to do good. It was something deeper, something personal. He knew he needed to act, but the way he decided to help was even more surprising, because this story, in some way, brought back memories that he tried to bury for a long time. Not everyone knows Snoop Dogg's true trajectory. Before his fame, before his fortune, he lived through difficult times that few people imagine. He grew up in Long Beach, California, in a reality where lack of opportunities was the rule, not the exception. He saw the weight of inequality up close, felt what it was like to not have enough money to pay the bills, and witnessed countless times his mother, a hard-working woman, do everything she could to put food on the table. Every penny was counted, and any unforeseen event could mean another month of worry and sleepless nights. And that's exactly what went through his head when he read that story. The desperation of that father trying to support his family, the suffering of that mother trying to hide her sadness from her children. It all made Snoop remember where he came from. He saw his own family reflected in that situation. And he knew, better than anyone, what it was like to grow up surrounded by difficulties, trying to survive in a world that doesn't make life easier for those who start out at a disadvantage. But there was something even stronger in this connection. During his childhood, there was a moment when someone did something for him and his family that changed everything. A simple gesture, but one that brought relief in one of the most difficult moments of their lives. A neighbor, without even thinking twice, showed up one day with bags of food when he noticed his mother was struggling to put a plate of food on the table. It wasn't $1 million help, it didn't solve all the family's problems, but that gesture proved to Snoop, still a child, that good exists. That even in the worst moments, there may be someone willing to lend a hand. That's what marked Snoop forever. That's what he carried with him, even after he conquered the world. Even after he had enough money to never worry about bills or debt again. He never forgot where he came from, and more than that, he never forgot the impact that a simple act of generosity can have on someone's life. So at that moment, he knew exactly what he needed to do. But Snoop Dogg never does anything conventionally. He could simply transfer a sum to his family, pay off his debts quietly, and move on with his life. But he wanted to do something bigger. Something that would not only solve the immediate problem, but that would forever change the course of that family. The plan he hatched was something no one could predict. He didn't just want to pay their overdue bills or temporarily alleviate their suffering. He wanted to give this family a second chance, a real fresh start, an opportunity they would never have imagined receiving. And the way he decided to do it, it was absolutely unbelievable. Now tell me, have you ever received help from where you least expected it? Do you believe that a single gesture can transform an entire life? Comment below. I believe in the power of change. If this story is moving you as much as it is moving me, I read all the comments and want to know what you think about this. And hold on tight, because what Snoop Dogg did next will leave you speechless. If you thought this story was already incredible, wait until you see what happened when he finally got in touch with this family. What comes next will completely change everything you imagined about this story. The moment that would change that family's life forever was about to happen. Snoop Dogg had already made his decision. But like I said before, he didn't want to just pay some bills and disappear. He wanted to do something that really made an impact, something that showed that even in the most difficult times, life can take incredible turns. And that's exactly what he did. It all started with an unexpected phone call. After getting in touch with some people close to the family, Snoop Dogg found a way to get closer without attracting too much attention. He didn't want them to know right away what was happening. He wanted it to be an unforgettable surprise. So, using an intermediary, he achieved something that seemed impossible, accessing all of the family's outstanding bills, from rent to water, electricity and gas bills. And it didn't stop there. While the family was still trying to find a solution to the financial chaos they were trapped in, a series of transactions began to take place without them knowing. First, the owner of the property where they lived received a call informing him that the rent for the next 12 months had already been paid. That's right, a whole year of peace of mind, without having to worry about eviction or rent increases. But Snoop Dogg didn't stop there. Subsequently, all electricity, water, and gas bills were paid. The companies responsible didn't even know what was happening. They just saw a gigantic transfer covering every penny of the accumulated debt. The family name, which until then was dirty in the credit systems, was cleaned overnight. They didn't know it, but at that exact moment their lives were being transformed in ways they could never have imagined. The next step was even more unbelievable. Snoop Dogg wanted to ensure that they not only got out of the financial hole, but also had a decent fresh start. So, without anyone knowing, he did something that no one expected. He opened a bank account in the family's name and deposited a generous amount, enough money for them to have stability for the next few years. That meant food on the table, new clothes for the children, peace to sleep at night without the fear of tomorrow. Now imagine this family's reaction when they started to discover all of this. First, the father received a call from the property owner saying he no longer had to worry about rent for the next 12 months. He thought it was a mistake, a bad joke. But when he checked his bank account and saw that all his debts were gone, the penny started to sink in. The mother, who was already preparing for another long and painful conversation with her creditors, couldn't hold back her tears when she discovered that all the bills were paid. The despair she had been feeling for months turned into a cry of relief. For the first time in a long time, they could breathe without fear. They could look at their children and know that at least for a while they would be safe. But the most exciting moment came when they received the letter that would change everything. A simple correspondence, without luxury, without exaggeration. Just an envelope that contained something that would make that family collapse with emotion. When they opened it and read what was written, the floor disappeared. The message was short, direct, but carried a huge emotional weight. The world may be cruel, but there are still people who care. You are not alone. Hold your head up, move forward, and never forget where you came from. Because when life takes a turn, it will be your turn to help someone. Love, Snoop Dogg. When they read those words, silence took over the house. Dad held the paper with shaking hands, unable to believe what was happening. The mother, without saying anything, hugged her children and burst into tears. They were trying to understand how someone who had never met them could have done such a great thing for them. Now tell me something. Do you believe that good always comes back? Do you believe that a simple gesture can change everything in someone's life? If yes, comment below, I believe in the power of kindness, and tell me if you have ever witnessed or experienced something similar. I read all the comments and want to know your opinion on this incredible story. And hold on tight, because this story isn't over yet. If you thought this turn of events was already unbelievable, just wait until you find out how this family reacted to learning that Snoop Dogg was behind all of this. The next part of this story will move you even more. The impact of this aid was immediate and overwhelming for that family who had spent months living on edge, not knowing what would happen the next day. It seemed like a miracle had happened. The weight they had carried on their shoulders for so long simply disappeared, and for the first time in a long time, they were able to sleep peacefully. The father, who was used to leaving early and returning late, exhausted from working so hard and still seeing the bills piling up, felt a relief that he could barely express in words. The mother, who had cried in silence so many times as she tried to keep hope alive for her children, was now crying again, but this time it was with gratitude. And the children, who were used to seeing their parents worried without knowing exactly what was happening, could now see something different in their parents' eyes. Hope. But what no one knew was that this story had a much greater meaning for Snoop Dogg. This wasn't just a good deed, a random gesture of generosity. No, this decision had deep roots, directly connected to his own history, his own past. Because what few people know is that Snoop has already been on the other side. He was once that family. He has already experienced the despair of seeing his mother struggling to put food on the table. He has seen the bills piling up without knowing how they would be paid. And he never forgot the day his life changed because of the generosity of someone who, to this day, he remembers with affection and respect. Many know Snoop Dogg as the millionaire rapper, the guy who built an empire in music, television, and even business. But before all that, he was just a kid from Long Beach, California, growing up in a neighborhood where poverty and hardship were everyday life for practically every family. Snoop's mother, a strong and determined woman, did everything she could to give her son a dignified life. But there were days when it just wasn't possible. Days when the fridge was almost empty. Days when the rent was late and the fear of losing the house was real. And it was on one of those days that something happened. A neighbor who knew of the hardship Snoop's family was going through showed up with bags of food. Without asking anything, without expecting anything in return, he just left it there and said, "Everything will be fine." At that moment, Snoop didn't fully understand the weight of that gesture, but his mother did, And that day, he saw something he would never forget. His mother, crying with relief, holding those bags as if they were the most valuable thing in the world. That was marked. He grew up with that moment in his head, and when he finally achieved success, he promised himself that one day he would do the same for someone else. But not anyway. He wanted to make the same impact that neighbor made on his life. He wanted someone to feel the same relief his mother felt that day, and that's exactly what happened now. When Snoop read that family's story, when he saw the despair in their eyes, he went back in time. He remembered every difficult moment he experienced, every time he saw his mother trying to maintain her dignity, even when everything seemed to fall apart. He knew he couldn't change the past, but he could change the future of that family, and that's why he did what he did. But the most incredible part of this story was yet to come, because Snoop Dogg didn't just help this family, he did something no one could have imagined, something that would transform this gesture of generosity into something even greater, something that would make this story remembered forever. Now tell me, do you believe that a single act of kindness can change an entire life? Have you ever been through a time when help came from where you least expected it? Comment below. Good always comes back if you believe in the power of generosity. I read all the comments and want to know your opinion, and if you think this story is already exciting, wait until you find out what Snoop Dogg did next. Because what happened next was something no one could have predicted and left everyone in shock. The impact of this gesture by Snoop Dogg went far beyond money, far beyond the bills paid, the rent paid, or the financial relief. What he truly gave this family was something money often can't buy: dignity, hope, the chance to start over without the unbearable weight of uncertainty crushing each day. And that, perhaps, was the biggest lesson of this story. We live in a world where many are quick to judge, but few put themselves in another's shoes. How many times do we see someone going through difficulties and turn away? How many times have we heard stories of people who have lost everything and, instead of empathy, what they receive is contempt and indifference? The truth is that no one chooses to go through difficulties. No one wants to feel the despair of not knowing if they will have a roof over their heads tomorrow, if they will be able to feed their children, if they will be able to get up again after so many falls. Snoop Dogg understood this because he's been there. He knew what that family was feeling, because one day he and his mother felt the same. And instead of ignoring it, instead of just feeling sorry, he acted. He proved that a simple act of generosity can have a cascading effect, completely changing someone's destiny. And this is the great reflection that remains of this story. Because at the end of the day, true success isn't just what you achieve for yourself, but what you do with what you've achieved. It's not about having millions in your bank account, but about how you use those millions to impact lives. It's not about fame, power, or recognition, but about the mark you leave on the world. Maybe you don't have the fortune of a hip-hop star. You may not be able to pay all the bills for an unknown family, but each of us has something we can offer. A gesture of kindness, a word of encouragement, an act of empathy. And sometimes that's all someone needs to not give up. Now, I want to know, have you ever been through a moment where a small gesture made all the difference in your life? Do you believe that good always comes back to those who do good? Comment below. Generosity transforms lives. If this story moved you and made you reflect. I read every comment, and I really want to know your opinion. And if you think this story ends here, you are wrong. Because what happened next was even more surprising, what this family did after finding out that Snoop Dogg was behind all of this. No one could imagine, so get ready, because this twist is not over yet. And now I ask you, what did you think of Snoop Dogg's attitude? Have you ever seen something like this happen in real life? Or better yet, have you ever made or received a gesture of generosity that changed everything? Tell me here in the comments, because I read each one of them, and I really want to know your opinion. And look, you don't have to write a long text if you don't want to, but tell me at least this. Do you believe that good always comes back? If yes, comment below. Good always returns, and let's spread this message to more people. And if this story moved you, if it made you reflect on how small gestures can transform lives, don't forget to like this video. This helps the channel a lot, makes more people aware of this story, and, who knows, inspires someone to also do good. If you are not yet registered, take the opportunity to subscribe and activate the notification bell, because here we always bring impactful, exciting stories with twists that no one expects. If you've made it this far, it means that this story really captured you, moved you, and made you reflect. And that's exactly why I want to invite you to be part of this community. Subscribe to the channel right now and activate the bell, because here we always bring stories like this with surprising twists, powerful lessons, and moments that show that justice may take a while, but eventually it will arrive. And now I want to know, who really followed this story until the end? I want to see who the true loyal subscribers of the channel are. If you've watched this far, comment respect is worth more than luxury down here. This is a sign that you are part of this team that believes in justice, kindness, and the strength of life to take unbelievable turns. Oh, and before you leave, don't forget to leave a like. This doesn't cost you anything, but it makes all the difference for the channel, helping this content reach more people who need to hear stories like this. And if you think this story was impressive, just wait until you see what I prepared for you in the next video. Justice was done in an unbelievable way, and I'm sure you'll be surprised. Click now on the video that appears on your screen and come with me for another incredible story.